Chapter 46. A Mother's Shadow. Time skip. Old Asgard, 2013. Loki from 2013 is trapped in prison, his mind thinking about Ashley, after she was the one who didn't back down at Loki's words when he tried to make her bow. Unbeknownst to Loki, 2023. Thor and Rocket sneak past his cell, then hides behind the pillars, and Thor notices Jane, his old friend. "For you, Lady Jane," one of the Asgardian maiden tells Jane as she passes her some clothes. Jane looks at the clothes before back at the maiden. So you have anything with pants?" The maiden looks confused. "Pants?" Jane shakes her head as she smiles. "Never mind. These will be fine. Thank you." The maiden bows to her. "Yes, milady," before she walks away. Thor looks at Jane, still behind the pillar. "Oh, there's Jane." As the maiden and Jane disappears, Rocket and Thor comes out of hiding. Rocket speaks up. "All right, here's the deal, Tubby. You're going to charm her, and I'm going to poke her with this thing, and extract the reality stone and get gone lickety-split." Thor sniffs before lifting a finger up for a moment. "I'll be right back, okay? The wine cellar is just down here." Thor points down the hall. "My father used to have this huge barrel of Iconian ale." Rocket looks at him confused as Thor continues to head down the other way. "I'll see if the scullery has a couple of to-go cups." Rocket whisper yells at Thor, Hey, aren't you drunk enough already?" The door opens and closes, which causes Thor and Rocket to hide. Thor looks down the corridor and notices 2013 Frigga talking to one of the maidens. "If you could send Loki some soup." The second maiden nods. "Yes, milady." Frigga continues. "And ask our librarians to pull some volumes from the astronomy shelf." Thor's face softens as he watches his mother walk past, and Rocket jumps onto the ledge and looks at him. "Who's the fancy broad?" Thor's voice comes out sadder. "That's my mother. She dies today." Rocket looks over to him, feeling guilty for asking as he notices the sadness in Thor's face. "Oh, that is today." Thor looks down as he starts to breathe heavily. I can't do this. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have come. It's a bad idea." Rocket looks at him. "Come here." Thor shakes his head. No. "I think I'm having a panic attack." Rocket tells Thor, "Come here, right here." Thor rambles on. I shouldn't be here. This is bad." Rocket slaps Thor across the face. "You think you're the only one who lost people? What do you think we're doing here? I lost the only family I ever had. Quill, Groot, Drax, the chick with the antenna, all gone." Thor looks at Rocket, then he thought about Laila, the past. How Frigga stayed in her room most nights knowing that she lost her daughter forever, not even knowing it was Loki's doing. Rocket looks at Thor as he continues. "I get you miss your mum, but she's gone, really gone, and there are plenty of people who are only kind of gone, and you can help them, including your sister, Laila." Thor can feel his tears fall from his eyes as he looks at Rocket as Rocket softens slightly. "So, is it too much to ask that you brush the crumbs out of your beard, make Schmoopy talk to Pretty Pants, and when she's not looking, suck out the Infinity Stone, and help me get my family back?" Thor sighs to himself as he nods. "Okay." Rocket notices the tears. "Are you crying?" Thor shakes his head, clearly lying as his voice breaks as he cries. "No. Yes, I feel like I'm losing it." Rocket puts his hand on his shoulders. "Get it together. You can do this." Thor looks at Rocket before breathing in and out as Rocket does a little smile. "You can do this, Rocket sees Thor taking deeper breaths. All right. Thor nods with determination on his face. Yes, I can. Rocket jumps down. Good. Thor smiles to himself. I can do this. I can do this. I can't do this. Thor turns around and runs off the other way. Rocket, not knowing Thor disappeared. All right, Heartbreaker, she's alone. This is our shot. Rocket looks behind him. Thor? Thor. Rocket groans. Chapter 47. Double Trouble, Captain versus Captain. Time skip, back at Tony's tower. 2012. Tony, leaning on one of the towers, calls out to Steve. Better hustle, Cap. Things look like they're just about wrapped up here. Steve speaking through the comms. Got it. I'm approaching the elevator now. Tony flies into his old tower and hides behind a wall. Loki from 2012 speaks to the Avengers. If it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now. 2012. Tony speaks up as Tony himself watches. All right, get him on his feet. We can all stand around posing up a storm later. By the way, feel free to clean up. Tony watches his past self leave, and he notices 2012 Steve walk past, and he scoffs. Mr. Rogers, I almost forgot that suit did nothing for your ass. Steve rolls his eyes and speaks through the comms again. No one asked you to look Tony. It's ridiculous. Tony finishes up, but Scott speaks up. I think you look great, Cap. As far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass. Scott does the patriotic salute. Natasha from 2012 speaks up. Who gets the, magic wand? 2012 Steve walks over to her. STRIKE team's coming to secure it. Tony looks over to the elevator as Rumlow walks out and Tony quickly hides somewhere else. 2012. Sitwell walks over to Natasha. We can take that off your hands. Natasha passes it over to him. By all means, careful with that thing. 2012, Clint speaks up. Unless you want your mind erased. And not in a fun way. Sitwell puts the Spectre in the case. We're promised to be careful. Scott asks Tony. Who are these guys? Tony replies. They are SHIELD. Well, actually, Hydra, but we didn't know that yet. Scott looks at Tony. Seriously? You didn't? I mean, they look like bad guys. Tony pulls a confused face as he watches what's going on. You're small, but you're talking loud. 2012, Steve walks past. On my way down to coordinate search and rescue. 2012. Loki turns into Steve and mimics what he said. Loki looks over to Thor. I mean, honestly, how do you keep your food down? 2012. Thor puts something on Loki's mouth. Shut up. Thor drags him away. 2023. Tony notices a chance. Ooh! All right. You're up, little buddy. There's our stone. Scott crouches. All right. Flick me. Tony flicks Scott over to the briefcase, and he runs up 2012 Tony's arm. 2023. Tony presses his on his arch to activate his suit before jumping out of a building and flies away. 2012. Hulk walks over to the elevator. Move. Thor raises his hand. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Tony looks over to Hulk. Hey, buddy, what do you think? Maximum occupancy has been reached. Take the stairs. Hulk growls before punching the door and walks over to the staircase. Take the stairs. Hate the stairs. 2023. Tony flies up and stops himself. All right, Cap. I got our scepter in the elevator, just passing the 8th floor. Time skip, elevator. Steve presses on a down button on the elevator. On it. Head to the lobby. Tony's voice comes through. All right, I'll see you there. Inside the elevator, Sitwell is speaking to someone on the phone. Evidence? Secure. We're en route to Dr. List, number. No hitches at all, Mr. Secretary. The door opens in 2023. Steve looks at Hydra before walking in. Sitwell looks at Steve. Captain, I thought you were coordinating search and rescue. Steve replies as he stands in the elevator. Change of plans. Brock looks over to Steve. Hey, Cap. Steve looks over to him. Rumlow. Before looking ahead again. Steve looks down at one of the agent's hand and notices he's reaching for his gun before looking back at him. I just got a call from the secretary. I'm going to be running point of the scepter. Sitwell turns to look at him. Sir? I don't understand. Steve looks at Sitwell before looking behind him and back at Sitwell. We got word there may be an attempt to steal it. Brock speaks up again. Sorry, Cap. We can't give you the scepter. Sitwell looks at Steve. I'm going to have to call the director. Steve looks down. That's okay, trust me. Sitwell looks at him as he leans forward and whispers in his ear, Hail, Hydra. After a while, Steve has the hold of the scepter and he walks out smirking to himself. Time skip. Another room. A few while later, Steve presses his comms to check in on Tony. Tony, what's going on? Tell me you found a cube. Steve looks around before looking at his 2012 counterpart and he sighs. You gotta be shitting me. 2012, Steve presses his comms. I have eyes on Loki, 14th floor. Steve puts down the case. I'm not Loki, and I don't wanna hurt you. 2012. Steve charged at Steve, and Steve raised his shield to stop his counterpart's shield from hitting him. The fight starts between two Steves before 2012. Steve kicks Steve away. 2012. Steve looks at Steve as he pants. I can do this all day. Steve sighs as he gets up. Yeah, I know. Both Steve threw their shield at each other before charging at each other and fighting even more. Both Steves fell from the 14th floor. Before 2012, Steve notices an image of older Layla before grabbing it as he's confused. Where did you get this? 2012, Steve asked as he looks at Steve. Steve quickly grabbed the scepter, but 2012 Steve puts his foot on it before getting Steve into a headlock. Steve, struggling to get his counterpart off him, tries to speak through gritted teeth. They're both alive. Layla and Bucky are alive. 2012. Steve loosens his grip slightly as he looks at Steve as two emotions rushes through him. What? Steve took that as an opportunity and punches his counterpart in the face before grabbing the scepter and uses it on him before he gets up and grabs the picture of Layla and pants as he looks down at his counterpart's body. Steve nods as he mutters to himself, That is American's ass. Now, I know why Layla kept smacking my ass every time she walked past. Steve looked around to see if anyone heard that before walking off. Chapter 48. Mother's Wisdom. Time skip. Asgard, 2013. 2013. Frigga walks alongside her maidens. Frigga stops for a moment, and she looks at the women. My ladies, I'll see you after. Go on ahead. Frigga looks around before seeing her maidens leave. 2023. Thor hides behind the pillar watching her before turning his head around, before hearing a voice. Frigga standing right next to him. What are you doing? Thor jumps out of his skin as he moves away and looks at Frigga as he screams, causing Frigga to scream. Thor gasps as he tries to cover his clothes up with his robes. Frigga looks at him. Oh, God! You're better off leaving the sneaking to your brother. Thor shakes his head. No, I wasn't sneaking. I was just going for a walk. Frigga looks at him more. What are you wearing? Thor looks at his clothes. I always wear this. It's one of my favourites. Thor clears his throat as he looks at Frigga as he smiles, and Frigga reaches out and touches his cheek. What's wrong with your eye? Thor removes her hand gently. Oh, my eye. Remember the Battle of Harrikin, when I got hit in the face with the broadsword? He chuckles. Frigga reaches out again and removes a strand of his hair out of his face as she shakes her head. You're not the Thor I know at all, are you? Thor looks at her. Yes, I am. Frigga looks at him. The future hasn't been kind to you, has it? Thor chuckles. I didn't say I was from the future. Frigga smiles as she looks at him. I was raised by witches, boy. She shakes her head. I see with more than eyes, you know that. Thor's composure breaks again as he starts to cry again. Yeah, I'm totally from the future. Frigga speaks in her soft tone. Yes, you are, honey. Thor looks at her. I really need to talk to you. Frigga nods as she smiles. We can talk. Thor and Frigga hug each other and Thor looks slightly happy. Time, skip, garden. Thor looks at Frigga. His head was over there and his body over there. He scoffs. I mean, chapter 49. Bought with love. Time, skip. Avengers, compound. Everyone jumps back to their time and they look at each other after removing their helmets. Bruce looks at everyone. Did we get them all? Rhodes smiles. Are you telling me this actually worked? Clint and Natasha looks down, not saying anything, but everyone notices. Bruce walks over. Clint, where's Ashley? His silence hit harder than any explosion. Natasha's lips quivered, Clint's jaw tightened. Finally, Clint whispered, She's gone. The room went still. Tony's eyes widened. What do you mean, gone? Clint's voice cracked. Vormir, the Soul Stone. There has to be a sacrifice, he said, forcing each word past the grief in his throat. Natasha stepped forward, tears falling freely. She jumped, she said. She looked at us and smiled. Said Layla's children would want their aunt and uncle. Steve froze. His chest ached as he whispered, Ashley? Clint nodded, his hands shaking. She said Layla deserves her future. Time skip. Outside. Tony looks around at everyone before looking down again. Do we know if she had family? Steve nods. Yeah, us. And Loki. Thor walks over to them. What? Tony looks at him. Huh? Thor looks at Tony. What are you doing? Just asked him a question, Tony replied. Thor shakes his head. Yeah, no, you're acting like she's dead. Why are we acting like she's dead? We have the stones, right? As long as we have the stones. Cap, we can bring her back. Isn't that right? So stop this shit. We're the Avengers. Get it together. Clint shakes her head. Can't get her back. Thor looks over to Clint. What's he... What? Clint speaks up again. It can't be undone. It can't. Thor laughs to himself. Look, I'm sorry, no offense, but you're a very earthly being, okay? And we're talking about space magic. And can't seems very definitive. Don't you think? Natasha steps forward then, her face wet with tears. He's right, Thor, she says softly. We tried. We both did. Ashley wouldn't let us. Thor stares at her, disbelief flickering in his eyes. Wouldn't let you? He repeats. Natasha nods, voice trembling. She made the choice herself, she says. Said someone had to give everything for the Soul Stone. She didn't hesitate, not for a second. Thor looks over to Clint. Clint looks at Thor. Yeah, look. I know that I'm way outside my pay grade here, but she still isn't here, is she? Thor speaks up. No, that's my point. Clint shakes his head. It can't be undone. Or that's at least what the red floating guy had to say. Maybe you want to go talk to him, okay? Go grab your hammer and you go fly and you talk to him. Thor goes quiet and he looks away. Clint looks down, then at Steve. It was supposed to be me. Tony looks at Clint. Clint continued. She sacrificed her life for that goddamn stone. For us. For Laila. She bet her life on it. Bruce grabs one of the benches and throws it away in anger before looking at everyone. She's not coming back. We have to make it worth it. We have to. Steve stands up. We will? Natasha wipes her cheeks, voice low but firm. She said something before she fell, she says quietly. Said, tell the team I'm proud. And tell Layla's little ones, their world was bought with love. The team stands in silence. The wind ripples the surface of the lake, sunlight glinting like fragments of a shattered soulstone. Thor stares at the horizon, his voice barely audible. She gave us everything, he says, and now we owe her everything. Steve exhales, eyes damp but determined. Then we make this right, he says. For her. For everyone she died to save. Natasha nods, whispering. For Ashley. The group falls silent again. Grief binding them, but hope flickering faintly in their eyes. Ashley's name lingers in the air, a promise they all silently make to keep.